Friday numbers are in, and they are sad, they are bad, they are dreadful. If I'm TNT, Warner Bros., they gotta feel had at this point. Nafisa Collier, Breanna Stewart, the hubby, they come to Warner Bros. Hey, we got this new 3-on-3 league that we're gonna start. TNT, is Caitlin Clark gonna be in there?
What you're hearing right now isn't noise. It's a warning siren for a league heading towards serious trouble. The latest Friday night ratings didn't just dip. They collapsed, sending shockwaves through everyone involved. If you're Breanna Stewart or Nafisa Collier, those numbers should be setting off alarms, because this situation goes far beyond a slow season. Unrivaled isn't merely struggling in its second year. It's unraveling in real time. Inside TNT Warner Brothers, the executives who invested millions into this project are now facing an uncomfortable reality. They were promised a product that never truly materialized. When you break it down, the evidence is brutal. Season 2 opened with weak viewership, the second week slipped even further, and by the time Friday's data dropped, it confirmed what many quietly feared but refused to admit. Strip Caitlin Clark out of the picture, and the harsh truth becomes impossible to ignore. Without her, this league simply doesn't attract a meaningful audience.
Please like the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Needless to say, the ratings have not been better. Friday's ratings come out, damn, 17 million for the college football playoff. But we scroll all the way down that screen, and you see unrivaled Breeze versus Hive, 30,000 viewers in the 18 to 49 demographic, with a total of 110.
Go back and study the data one more time because the numbers paint a brutal picture. The Breeze versus Hive matchup barely scraped together around 30,000 viewers in the crucial 18 to 49 demographic, with total viewership stuck near 110,000. Vinyl against Rose followed the exact same pattern, roughly 30,000 in the demo, and just over 100,000 watching overall. Now here's why this hits so hard. Just 1 year ago, those identical Friday night windows were pulling close to 90,000 viewers in the key age group and nearly 270,000 total viewers. That's not a minor dip. It's a massive 60% crash in the core demographic and a shocking 63% collapse in overall audience in a single year for a league that was supposed to be gaining traction and momentum. And before anyone tries to hide behind the competition excuse, let's shut that down immediately. Yes, the college football playoff was on at the same time, but reality matters. These audiences don't overlap. No one sat down ready to watch Unrivaled and suddenly flipped the channel to Oregon versus Indiana. That's simply not how viewer behavior works.
Breeze versus the Hive, Kelsey Mitchell, and isn't Enrique on that team, and somebody else on that team? Okay. Folks, do you want to know how bad that Breeze versus Hive game was? I didn't watch. Of course I didn't watch. Breeze Hive were a combined 1 for 26 from 3. You read that correctly. A combined 1 for...
If anything, the opposite argument actually exposes the problem even more clearly. Oregon crushed Indiana so badly that the game became background noise before halftime. That should have created the perfect opportunity for viewers to go searching for something else to watch, and Unrivaled was sitting right there. It was available on TNT, featured professional basketball players, and had no barriers to entry. Yet even with a massive blowout sending sports fans away in real time, the league still failed to pull them in. That detail says more than any rating chart ever could. When you can't attract sports viewers who are actively hunting for alternative content, the issue isn't scheduling or exposure. It's a deep-rooted interest problem. Now shift the focus to how this entire project got greenlit in the first place. Multiple reports indicate that when Breanna Stewart and Nafisa Collier pitched the idea to Warner Brothers Discovery, the selling point wasn't infrastructure or long-term growth, it was star power. And the biggest name used to sell the vision, the centerpiece of the pitch, was Caitlin Clark.
30,000. Oh Lord. And before I even hear complaints, not by you guys, but from the masses, the college football playoff audience, they don't give a fuck about Unrivaled. So before people say, oh, of course the ratings are going to be down, the college football playoffs are on. Dude, nobody said, oh man, I would really love to watch Unrivaled today, but the college football playoffs are... No. Completely two different demographics, two different types of people. Stop. Cut it out. Shout out to Joey Gladstone. It ain't happening. It ain't happening. Maybe 50 people said that to them.
Put yourself in the shoes of a television executive for a moment. You're being presented with a brand new 3-on-3 women's basketball league scheduled for January and February, a stretch that's usually a quiet graveyard on the sports calendar. The creators are recognizable Wnba veterans, which instantly adds legitimacy. Then comes the real hook. You're told Caitlin Clark will be part of it. At that point, the decision feels obvious. Caitlin Clark had just turned women's college basketball into appointment viewing. She isn't just popular. She's the rare athlete who reliably shifts ratings. She's the difference between a broadcast pulling 300,000 viewers and one exploding past 3 million. So you sign the deal, expecting her presence to anchor the entire project. Season 1 arrives and she's not there. Fine, you rationalize it. Maybe she needed recovery time after her college run. You still have Sabrina Ionescu and Angel Reese, so the league has recognizable names. The ratings come in lukewarm, but acceptable for a debut season. You convince yourself growth will come. Then Season 2 planning starts, and the situation gets worse. Still no Caitlin Clark. No Aya Wilson, arguably the second largest draw in the sport. No Paige Buchers. No Sophie Cunningham. Then Sabrina steps away. Angel Reese decides her priorities lie elsewhere. At that point, the entire foundation of the pitch begins to collapse.
I want them to be consistently high no matter if we play on Friday or Saturday, Sunday or Monday. And know that we have a space on our own here and in the league of sports. People aren't typically used to seeing women's professional basketball at this time unless you're watching EuroLeague or something like that, so ratings is a huge one. Here's a news flash.
And now you're sitting in an executive...
Now imagine sitting inside that executive boardroom, staring at a reality that looks nothing like the vision you originally signed off on. The star appeal you were promised has completely vanished. The ratings aren't merely stagnant. They're in a full-blown free fall. And you're stuck honoring a broadcast agreement for a league that can't attract even casual attention. And unfortunately, the problems don't stop there. It's not just the numbers that are alarming. The on-court product is creating its own crisis. Friday's matchup between Breeze and Hive was painful to watch. Together, both teams managed to hit just one three-pointer on 26 attempts. Let that sink in, one successful shot from deep out of 26 tries. That isn't the standard viewers expect from professional basketball. That looks more like a pickup game at a local gym. And the audience can absolutely see and feel that difference.
Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. And know that we have a space on our own here and in the league of sports. People aren't typically used to seeing women's professional basketball at this time unless you're watching EuroLeague or something like that, so ratings is a huge one. Here's a news flash. Here's a news flash. People just still aren't used to watching women's basketball. Guilty. Guilty for spilling the beans. Sorry, someone had to say it. People aren't used to it. It's not a habit. When Caitlin Clark, Caitlin Clark, and that league is still going on. Okay, let me pay attention a little bit. But it's not a habit. It's not a habit. The WNBA season starts here for casual fans? It ain't no habit.
Now Breanna Stewart is doing damage control, attempting to reframe what is clearly a public failure. She told reporters that fans simply aren't accustomed to watching women's professional basketball during this part of the year, unless it's something like EuroLeague. And that single explanation exposes the core misconception driving this entire project. Breanna, casual American sports fans are not tuning into EuroLeague. That's not a real viewing habit here. You can't blame weak ratings on audience behavior when the behavior you're referencing doesn't actually exist. The issue isn't seasonal timing or calendar confusion. People aren't avoiding women's basketball because it's January. They're tuning out because the players who make the product must-see television aren't on the floor. This was never about building a habit. Caitlin Clark games became appointment viewing instantly. There was no learning curve, no multi-season adjustment period. She didn't need years to train an audience. Viewers showed up immediately because the product itself was undeniably compelling. At this point, it's obvious that Unrivaled simply isn't an engaging product. And no amount of patience or waiting is going to fix that if the league refuses to feature the players fans actually care about. But over the weekend, Unrivaled finally grabbed headlines. And not in the way anyone involved would have hoped. Instead of buzz about great games or rising stars, the league made news for an outright embarrassment. Reports surfaced that a physician assistant from South Florida was arrested at an Unrivaled event in Medley after allegedly refusing to leave the venue. According to police, the individual even offered up to $5,000 to an officer to make the charges disappear, and was later found carrying suspected cocaine. Now, to be clear, this isn't an indictment of the league itself, but the irony is impossible to ignore. It's darkly humorous that someone apparently needed chemical motivation just to sit through an Unrivaled game, when the basketball is so dull that spectators seem to require a pick-me-up to stay awake. That tells you everything you need to know. This isn't a marketing issue or a timing issue. It's a pure entertainment failure. When fans need outside stimulation just to remain engaged, the product on the floor has already lost. This is the reality Unrivaled finds itself trapped in right now. The ratings are disastrous. The on-court product is painful to sit through. The promised star power never showed up. And somehow, the few spectators who do attend are ending up in police reports. So let's slow this down and clearly explain what actually went wrong, and why it matters far beyond this one league. This isn't just the story of a failed experiment. It highlights a long-standing misunderstanding that has haunted women's sports marketing for decades. Unrivaled wasn't built on pure deception, but it was built on a false assumption. The founders genuinely believed that professional players, strong production quality, and national television exposure would automatically generate interest. They assumed the missing piece was visibility and presentation, not substance. The data proves that belief was flat out wrong. Demonstrably wrong. Empirically wrong. The ratings don't lie. What actually drives viewership in women's basketball is far simpler. Individual stars with elite skill, strong personalities, and undeniable pull. Players casual fans will watch no matter the matchup, the time slot, or the context. Caitlin Clark is the clearest example. When she's on the floor, people tune in. It doesn't matter if it's Iowa versus Northwestern on a random Thursday night, or the biggest stage the sport has to offer. The audience follows the star, not the logo. Viewers don't just support the league, they follow her. Caitlin Clark specifically is the gravitational force. Aya Wilson carries that pull to a lesser degree. Paige Buchers is slowly building toward it. Angel Reese had it for a moment before injuries intervened, and she chose to sit out Unrivaled second season. Sabrina Ionescu was on a similar trajectory, then she opted out as well. Strip those names away, and what remains are talented basketball players who mean very little to the casual audience. And talent alone doesn't build ratings. It never has. The WNBA already learned this lesson the hard way. In 2020, the league posted its strongest season ever in both ratings and attendance. But when the data was dissected, nearly all of that growth was concentrated around games featuring Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Matchups without them saw only marginal bumps, and in many cases, viewership actually declined year over year. Unrivaled assumed it could harvest that momentum without securing the very players who generated it. That miscalculation was fatal. You cannot sell star power you don't possess. No amount of branding, marketing, or high-end production can manufacture interest in players the audience has already decided not to watch. And now we arrive at the most damaging consequence, the business fallout. Reports indicate TNT Warner Brothers committed substantial money for Unrivaled's broadcast rights. While exact figures haven't been publicly confirmed, industry insiders estimate the deal sits comfortably in the seven-figure range per year. That's serious money to pour into a brand new league. And what's the return on that investment? Barely 100,000 viewers per game. To put it bluntly, infomercials often pull higher numbers in the exact same time slots. Reruns of 1990s sitcoms outperform these broadcasts. At this rate, TNT could probably air a test pattern and still see comparable ratings. This isn't just embarrassing for one league. It undermines credibility for women's basketball across the board. When a league fails this spectacularly, it reinforces old, damaging stereotypes that women's sports can't be commercially viable. It hands critics ammunition to argue that women's basketball requires massive subsidies to survive. The frustrating reality? That's flat out false. Women's basketball can draw big audiences. We've seen it happen. The catch is simple. You need the right stars, the ones who genuinely move the needle. And in the case of Unrivaled, those players chose not to participate. Why they declined is the mystery no one's willing to confront directly. Caitlin Clark, for example, has never offered a full explanation. Most speculation points to her wanting a rest during the off-season and avoiding any risk of injury ahead of her second WNBA campaign. Caitlin Clark made a calculated choice, and it was a smart one. Aligning herself with a league that had no guarantee of success could have put her brand at risk. She also understood that her presence would be leveraged to attract networks and sponsors, and if the league failed, the blame would inevitably land on her shoulders. So she stayed on the sidelines, safeguarded her value, and let Unrivaled rise or fall on its own merits. As it turns out, it's falling. And now, the very people who built their league around the promise of star power they couldn't secure are facing the consequences. Breanna Stewart's recent comments about viewer habits expose yet another flaw. A total disconnect between what the league's founders think audiences want and what fans actually care about. Stewart seems to genuinely believe that timing and familiarity are the key issues, that if they simply persist, audiences will eventually form a habit of watching Unrivaled games. But that's not how modern media works. People don't develop routines around content they find boring. With endless entertainment options available at any moment, attention is fleeting. If your product isn't instantly captivating, viewers move on immediately. There's no grace period, no adjustment phase. You either hook the audience from the start or you fail. Unrivaled is failing. And the fact that Season 2 underperformed Season 1 proves that time won't fix it. The trajectory is unmistakably downward. This raises a larger question. What does this mean for the future of women's basketball leagues? Unrivaled isn't the only attempt to create professional alternatives. There are other 3-on-3 leagues, international competitions, and various initiatives trying to build professional opportunities outside the WNBA. But if these ventures don't understand what truly drives audience engagement, they risk repeating the same mistakes, and the consequences could be just as severe. Unrivaled's collapse teaches a very clear lesson. Star power cannot be bought or faked. You can't launch a successful league by promising marquee names that aren't actually on the court. Nor can you manufacture stars through slick marketing if the players themselves don't have the talent and personality that casual fans care about. This reality, ironically, is good news for the WNBA. The league's established history and platform give it a major competitive edge. Players who shine in the WNBA rarely replicate that level of success in alternative leagues, because the brand equity and audience loyalty remain with the original league. But this is less favorable news for player leverage. One of Unrivaled's selling points was supposed to be offering WNBA athletes alternative options, giving them more negotiating power in their primary league. In theory, if players could credibly threaten to leave the WNBA for a rival league paying comparable salaries, the league would be forced to increase pay and improve conditions. In reality, Unrivaled never provided a credible alternative. The money doesn't measure up when you consider the lack of exposure, media coverage, and brand-building opportunities. Now, with ratings plummeting, it's unclear if Unrivaled will even survive long enough to offer any future options. WNBA players are essentially back where they started, reliant on a single league for professional opportunities with minimal leverage to demand better compensation. And somehow, the cocaine arrest over the weekend has become almost a perfect metaphor for the state of this league. Chaotic, failing, and completely unprepared for the expectations it tried to set. Imagine someone so desperate to make an Unrivaled game even remotely entertaining that they showed up with drugs, and then so unwilling to leave that they offered a police officer $5,000 just to make the situation disappear. That isn't the behavior of a fan attending a successful, thriving league. That's the behavior of someone trapped in a failing enterprise, desperately trying to salvage something from the wreckage. And that's exactly the phase Unrivaled is in right now, total collapse. The real question is no longer whether the league can thrive, it's whether it can survive at all. Based on current ratings, survival looks highly unlikely. TNT is crunching the numbers as we speak. They're shelling out 7 figures for a product that pulls barely 100,000 viewers per game. The advertising revenue from those audiences doesn't even come close to covering the rights fees, let alone production expenses. This isn't just unprofitable. It's a clear money-losing proposition with no realistic path to sustainability. So what happens next? Most likely, TNT will finish out the current season due to contractual obligations, then decline to renew for a third season. Unrivaled will either fold entirely or attempt to migrate to a smaller platform willing to take a gamble on lower rights fees. Ultimately, the league becomes a cautionary tale about the perils of overpromising and under-delivering. For founders Breanna Stewart and Nafisa Collier, the fallout is personal. They pitched networks and sponsors on a vision they simply couldn't execute. Their credibility is damaged. Any future projects they propose will be met with skepticism, and they'll face hard questions about star power, audience appeal, and execution. Questions they should have addressed before Unrivaled ever launched. The real tragedy here is that none of this had to happen. If Unrivaled had been marketed honestly as a developmental platform for WNBA players to stay sharp in the off-season, expectations would have been realistic. Networks could have set appropriate deals, and 100,000 viewers per game would have been perfectly acceptable for that context. But instead, the founders swung for the fences. They promised a revolutionary new league that would transform women's basketball, implied commitments from the sport's biggest stars, and positioned themselves as the future of the game. What they delivered: 1 for 26 shooting from three-point range, a cocaine arrest, and a product that left fans bored and sponsors frustrated. That's not innovation. That's a cautionary tale of overpromise and underdelivery. A failure that risks setting women's basketball back by reinforcing outdated stereotypes about its commercial viability. Meanwhile, the same founders are out there on television making excuses about viewer habits and timing, rather than owning the collapse. So here's the question for you. Should Breanna Stewart and Nafisa Collier be held accountable for misrepresenting the league's star power and misleading networks and sponsors? This wasn't just a case of optimism falling short. This was a fundamental misrepresentation of the product itself, and business decisions were made based on promises that were never going to be kept. I want to hear your thoughts. Drop them in the comments below. And if you think I'm being too harsh, explain how 100,000 viewers for a league that was supposed to revolutionize women's basketball is anything less than a total disaster. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more deep dives, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any updates on the WNBA and women's basketball coverage.